Good evening and welcome to the Saturday edition of Poland Daily. I'm Konrad Gorlinski, and this is the news. Well, the first part of a report on Polish losses suffered during the Second World War will be announced on September 1st. The president of Law and Justice, Jarosław Kaczyński, announced today. Just this Thursday, the Council of the Institute of War Losses was established. Its main task will be to study the effects and losses suffered by Poland as a result of its invasion by Germany in 1939. The report is to detail the losses suffered by the Second Polish Republic as a result of the armed attack by the German Third Reich. The document is currently being translated into several languages. The Law and Justice chairman noted that the Western world is not fully aware of the scope of crimes committed by the Germans. The first part of the report, because it has three parts, will be announced on September 1st. The report may open the way to obtaining war reparations for losses suffered during World War II. Work on it has been going on for years now. A regular pressure from Poland will contribute to receiving reparations, believes Arkadiusz Mularczyk, head of the Council of the Institute of War Losses. I'm deeply convinced, and I believe deeply, that if we are consistent, if this pressure is constant, if we stay here, so to speak, to put the Germans against the wall, sooner or later they will give in and break. The German side, of course, believes that the subject is closed. They raise the argument that the authorities of the People's Republic of Poland renounced reparations in 1953. They forget, however, that the communists ruling at the time were completely dependent on Soviet Russia and operated under its influence. Propaganda says that Poland belongs to the group of winners, but in fact, it did not achieve any victory in the material or historical sense. Payment of reparations is an element of justice, as says Professor Mieczysław Ryba. He does not agree with the arguments of Western liberals. In their opinion, Germany, as a net payer in the European Union, is somehow paying off the reparations. We're dealing with sanctions from Brussels, a Brussels that's subordinate to Berlin, against Poland. Funds are being withheld for unknown reasons. You can ruin the Poles' entire country and not suffer any consequences. In addition, even some political formations operating in Poland are not in favor of raising the issue of reparations. From this point of view, one should look at the attitude of the opposition, which not only doesn't include itself in this postulate, but is actually, in a way, on the side of Germany in this dispute. According to a survey by Social Changes for the portal of polityce.pl, to the question, do you think Germany should pay Poland war reparations, i.e. compensation for damages and crimes committed during World War II, 64% of Poles answered positively, definitely yes or rather yes. On the other hand, 16% are against, and 20% of respondents have no opinion. And U.S. President Joe Biden was in Saudi Arabia today as part of his first Middle East trip since he took office. He declared that the United States would remain an active, engaged partner in the Middle East and urged leaders gathered at the Arab Summit in Jeddah to see human rights as a powerful force of economic and social change. Arab leaders, however, pointed to the limits in their ability to increase oil production. Biden is seeking to start a new chapter in U.S. involvement in the Middle East, hoping to move past U.S. military conflicts and instead push for a region that respects individual nations' domestic affairs, but seeks economic integration and shared defenses amid concerns over Iran.
We will not walk away and leave a vacuum to be filled by China, Russia, or Iran. We'll seek to build on this moment with active, principled American leadership.
Biden, on his first Middle East trip as president, has focused on today's summit with 6 Gulf states plus Egypt, Jordan, and Iraq, while downplaying a meeting with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. That encounter has drawn criticism in the United States over human rights abuses. Biden had promised to make Saudi Arabia a pariah on the global stage over the 2018 murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi by Saudi agents, but ultimately decided U.S. interests dictated a recalibration, not a rupture, in relations with the world's top oil exporter and Arab powerhouse. The U.S. needs the help of OPEC giant Saudi Arabia at a time of high crude prices and other problems related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and as he encourages efforts to end the Yemen war, where a temporary truce is in place. Washington also wants to curb Iran's sway in the region and China's global influence.
Around the world, we're seeing efforts to undermine the rules-based order. With China's increasingly coercive actions in the Indo-Pacific and beyond, with Russia's brutal and unprovoked war against its neighbor in Ukraine, with Iran's destabilizing activities here in the Middle East, we've also seen critical changes. For the first time since 9/11, an American president is visiting this region without American troops being engaged in combat and a combat mission in the region.
As Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman said, however, that unified efforts were required to support the global economy and that unrealistic policies regarding energy sources would only lead to inflation. Unrealistic energy policies to decrease emissions by eliminating main energy sources without taking into consideration the effects of these policies on the society, economy, sustainability, and global supply will lead in the upcoming year to inflation, an increase in oil prices. The de facto ruler of the world's top oil exporter said COVID-19 and the geopolitical situation necessitated more joint efforts to support the global economy, and that environmental challenges required a realistic and responsible approach to gradually transition to sustainable energy sources. U.S. officials have said Biden would discuss energy security with leaders of Gulf oil producers and hopes to see more action by OPEC Plus to boost output, but there was unlikely to be any bilateral announcements from the talks. The United States is, of course, eager to see Saudi Arabia and its OPEC partners to pump more oil to help bring down the high cost of gasoline and ease the highest U.S. inflation in 4 decades. The Saudi Crown Prince reminded the summit, however, that there are limits to the amount it can produce. And wildfires are raging on in southern Europe. The most affected are southern France and Spain, where firefighting crews continue to try and contain the spreading fires. The evacuation of residents from various areas also continues. Helicopters and planes battled a wildfire in Malaga, southern Spain this afternoon, as authorities said the thick vegetation and excessive heat were complicating firefighting efforts. With residential areas dotted around the Sierra de Mijas Mountains, the epicenter of the blaze, authorities have evacuated about 3,000 people as a precautionary measure since the fire started at midday on Friday. The area in Malaga province is popular with tourists and a magnet for pensioners from the United Kingdom and Northern Europe who have established their retirement residences there, lured by the sunshine and relaxed lifestyle. Elsewhere in Spain, dozens of fires are scorching thousands of acres of land and forcing authorities to evacuate people from their homes. Wildfires also spread in southwestern France, with nearly 10,000 hectares on fire in the Gironde region, up from 7,300 hectares on Friday. More than 12,200 people have been evacuated from the area by this morning, and more than 1,000 firefighters were trying to bring the fires under control. The fires around the town of Teste de Bûche in Gironde have stabilized, having swept through more than 3,000 hectares since the beginning of the crisis. In the nearby town of Landiras, where 6,500 hectares have been burnt and 2,200 people evacuated, the fires continued to spread overnight, pushed southwest by strong winds. The heat wave, which began on July 10th, has pushed temperatures into the 40s, making the risk of wildfires even greater. The severe weather is set to last through Sunday, although temperatures will remain high. The Health Institute at Carlos III University in Madrid reported that 360 people have died due to heat-related health issues over the period of July 10th to 15th, and 123 of them died on Friday alone. And finally, Polish striker Robert Lewandowski is set to join Barcelona after Bayern Munich reached a verbal agreement with the La Liga side on the transfer. The Bundesliga champions made the announcement early this afternoon. The 33-year-old Lewandowski has 12 months remaining on his Bayern contract, and multiple media reports have said that he's expected to sign a 3-year deal with the 26-time Spanish champions. We have come to a verbal agreement with Barcelona, Bayern president Herbert Hainer said in a statement. It's good to have clarity for all parties. Robert is an incredible player, and he won everything with us. We are incredibly grateful to him. As Spanish media reported that Barcelona would pay around 45 million euros, plus another 5 million in add-ons for the striker. Lewandowski joined Bayern in 2014 from Borussia Dortmund and has won the Bundesliga every year since then, as well as the Champions League in 2020. Named FIFA Best Men's Player for the second straight year in January, Lewandowski said in May that his story with Bayern was over and he could not imagine staying on with the German champions. The club were not eager to let the Bundesliga's second highest all-time scorer go, but Bayern sports director Hasan Salihamidzic had confirmed Lewandowski did not accept an offer to extend his contract and was looking for new experience elsewhere. As usual, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Please stay with us for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and other programs. But from me, it's have a wonderful Saturday night.